listening to the How to Health podcast. Turn up that stereo, plug in those earbuds, or pull up a chair. It's time to master your health journey. Here are your hosts, Dr. Heidi Cook and athletic trainer Tyler Smith. Let's ride.
Howdy ho.
Morning. How are we this morning?
We are fantastic.
How was the trip?
It was amazing.
Amazing.
I cannot get this disclaimer to get off of my screen because my mouse is not connected to my computer. So I'm just staring at this giant box that's covering half of your face that says this meeting is being recorded.
I mean, sometimes life is like that. We all need a disclaimer from time to time.
You know, the universe just really didn't want me to stare at your face today, apparently.
I don't blame them one bit.
Let's see. No?
Hawaii was good. All you dreamed of and more.
Hawaii was great. It, like the first couple of days. So we went early, and in going early, we had a couple of days of just like relaxation to the two of us, which was wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was great. I also got absolutely scorched by the sun. Like I got such a bad sunburn, and like my doctor had warned me ahead of time that being pregnant and like certain pregnancy hormones just make you a lot more sensitive to the sun and, you know, more vulnerable to sunburns and all that stuff. So like I was going into it with that mentality. And when I tell you I slathered my body like all day, multiple times a day, and I still got absolutely wrecked. It was crazy. But Sam also got sunburned and he doesn't normally burn. So like, I think either it was a mix of, yes, pregnancy hormones. Yes, the sun in Hawaii is intense, but also I now have a beef with mineral sunscreen.
I mean, that's, I don't disagree with that. It's this weird, like I have this weird complex where that's in a category of like, it sounds dumb, but like mineral sunscreen or like, I put it in the same category as like deodorant, like the all natural note, like, and then I use it and I was like, this stuff sucks. Like it's not working at all. Like, yeah. And then I'm like, but I want to be healthier, quote unquote. So I'm not, like the sunscreen is, I hear all about if you use it and it goes in the water, it ruins like, the coral and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And then you put on this other stuff and you're like, great, I'm now a lobster because it lasts 10 seconds and it came off when I got in the water.
So in Maui, the only type of sunscreen that's allowed is mineral sunscreen. And while, yes, people are using other sunscreens, and like there were days where we were at the pool and like I could have used a regular sunscreen if I would have brought it with me. Because they don't sell regular sunscreen there. It's all the mineral sunscreen. And we only brought mineral sunscreen because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be, in the pool, in the ocean, whatever. And so I was like, oh, and I truthfully had never really, I'm sure I've used mineral sunscreen before. I know like some of my face sunscreen is mineral sunscreen, but like, I've never slathered my body in mineral sunscreen and like expected it to do what, a regular sunscreen does until this trip. And I learned my lesson. Anyways, aside from my horrendous sunburn, the trip was great. We had a very relaxing couple of days. Then Sam's work event started. And, it's one of those things where we only really get to see some of those people like once a year. And so it's always such a fun, just reunion, good quality time with really great people. And yeah, like it's such a good week overall. I was talking to my to my sister and my mom yesterday, and I was like, you know, while it was good and like it was a little go, go, go. So like I was kind of tired, but at the end of it all, there's like some activities that you can book.
Sure.
And usually on these trips, Sam and I, we golf and we spa. And then if there's like something that we really want to do, we'll do that like additionally. But this year we had to book them so far in advance. I was like just coming out of my first trimester and like just starting to feel like myself again. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel when I'm, you know,
Sure.
7 months pregnant. Like, I don't want to sign up for this, you know, hike up the side of a volcano. I don't know if I'm going to hate sitting in a kayak. But like there were some really cool activities this year if I wasn't pregnant that like I totally would have enjoyed doing. Like there was a kayaking with sea turtles that was like so cool, and snorkeling and like all of these different little excursions, surfing, lots of really fun stuff. And if I wasn't pregnant, I did have a bit of FOMO on some of those. And I didn't even golf this year because I wasn't gonna try to attempt to swing around my giant belly.
Yeah, that would be a little challenging.
Yes. So yeah, I had 2 massages.
There you go.
And that was my week.
I mean, that works.
Yeah, it was great. I was not upset about it, but yeah, it was wonderful. It was a good mix of relaxing and then just like having fun with everybody. This was my first year, well, obviously, but like this was my first year at this event pregnant and sober. Like not that I, you know, need alcohol to have fun or anything like that, like whatsoever, but just like sometimes looking around and seeing, you know, somebody with like a beer in the pool, I was just like, damn, that sounds
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Or like on the beach or, you know, something like that. I was just like, oh, that sounds delicious. So I had some FOMO there. But then there was one day, there's this event where the drinks just really start flowing at this particular event. And it's like a bit of a pool party. And it was all great. And like, you know, I was having fun just like talking to everybody. But by the end of it, Sam and I kind of like looked around and I was just like, wow, I've never really realized how hammered people get.
Yeah. How, like, cause you're part of it. So you're like, oh, this is normal. And then when you're the individual who's not drinking at all, you're looking around and all those behaviors that are either funny or amusing, like just become like, okay, wow. Like like gives you that third party outside perspective of what you might look like when you're in that state.
Well, and it was just like, you know, I don't think I ever get to that point at these events. But
sure,
like,
you don't, Heidi. Sure.
having a couple of drinks in your system really eases like your tolerance to everybody else who is.
Sure, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So anyways, that was, and everybody was like, I had a couple of people ask me like, how was your first year, you know, pregnant and sober? And I was like, it honestly wasn't bad, except that one day was the only day where I was like, I got to get out of here. Like I was like, I don't know if I'm just hungry or am just way too sober, but everybody is pissing me off.
Everyone is not my favorite human right now.
Yes. So anyways, it was super fun. We did a little maternity photo shoot as well.
Nice.
We're supposed to get those back this week. So
wait, we're at 7 months right now, right?
yeah. 30. I think I am 30 weeks. I think. Yes, 30 weeks, 5 days.
I was just thinking, I was like, we're getting close to the 9. We're about 2 months away from not like the due date.
Yeah.
So
in what is that? Hold on, math. Yeah, at 36 weeks is 9 months. So we're 6 weeks out. We're like a month and a half out from full term.
So do I need to make a call here for a co-host in case you're going to be gone for a couple 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, we need to do some planning.
Planning, extra episodes. Any of you listeners who want to join me as a co-host for a couple emergency episodes, we'll get you lined up. I'll just have new co-hosts every single time.
Yes. So yeah, we're in the final stretch, which is crazy. It's really hit me like a ton of bricks how close we are once we got back from Hawaii. Baby is the size of a head of cabbage.
Cabbage. Boo. Not for your baby. I just don't like cabbage.
Yeah. It just feels very large. And then he is 16 inches long and 3.4 pounds.
There we go.
Which is wild. Or the nostalgic reference this week is a bike helmet.
A bike helmet. I still think my 2 favorites are the Mr. Potato Head, because I just see a Mr. Potato Head floating in your stomach.
Yeah, that was elite.
Or Game Boy, but that's just my own personal growing up with Game Boy. Brought back a lot of memories.
Game Boy too. I also liked the TI-89 calculator. That one was good.
I mean, it would have been if I used it for anything other than just playing games all the time. I don't think I actually, other than when like you had to do the graphs and stuff, that was the only time that thing got used for any purpose. But also, I'm not a math human, so there wasn't a lot of math going on inside Tyler's brain. So,
oh goodness. But yeah, so that's where we're at. Had a good week last week. Back into the thick of it this week. Just trying to get everything prepped to birth this child. But how was your week?
it was good. So this week for us, I mean, I know it's been 2 weeks. Things have been going good, a little chaotic, as this time of year sometimes brings on. We have an uptick in some of the injuries and or things that are bothering the athletes. So we're dealing with that. This week for me actually is spring break. So worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I get today and tomorrow off with like quotations or an asterisk, meaning that my athletes will not contact me, even though I told them my schedule, which will never happen because they won't listen to that. So if you are listening to this, athletes, yes, I'm going to blame you. So everything's good there. Update. I have been doing very consistently the boxing thing that was given to, but,
shout out.
I'm enjoying the learning process. I'm going to fully admit the instructions that I was given on the email about ratio of shadow boxing to actually hitting a bag has not been followed at all. So sure. I can be lectured on that. There's just something about like, I have the aqua bag, hitting the aqua bag just feels, I enjoy it, versus just shadow boxing, but, lots of fun. Like I'm learning a lot of new stuff. I'm also realizing like some of you may have paid attention to this or not, but, Mike Tyson and is it Jake Paul are going to fight each other, which is on Netflix. I'm going to have to watch that just for my own selfish reasons. But, so Mike Tyson's been like, coincidentally, it's been fun. Like he's been, releasing his training videos.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like seriously, even at his age, watching him do that and then actually trying to do what he's doing, that man is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like just in like today, I was doing some stuff where I'm learning combos from the guy that I was sent. Yeah. And like, I think the best I can possibly do right now with like good footwork and like maintaining a core where like, if you're punching, you're not overexerting yourself. to
Right.
where like you're losing balance or you're losing power.
Sure.
There's probably like 3 or 4. And I saw him do like a 12 punch combo, like just steady. And every single one looked like it could knock me out. And I was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. So, definitely a humbling experience. And I usually put it at the end of my workouts, but it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. And
Yay.
I realize I'm not good at it at all, which is okay. Like I don't have to be good at everything, but yeah, just watching those videos, I was terrified for my life.
That's awesome. I mean, that's how you get good at something, is by being bad at it at first.
Yeah. But just the way he can just move through combos and maintain his center of power during the whole thing is just, I mean, there's a reason why he was one of the best in the world. So I'm not comparing myself to that, but at the same time, I got to give him a lot of props from someone who's learning to do that. I can't even maintain balance after like 3 to 4 punches. So
that is something to strive for.
yeah, I mean, even though, and I have those 6 videos that were given to me. And like, I don't want to use the term master, but they're giving me enough to like keep working with and then working technique and stuff like that. So maybe one day. I also think my aqua bag is not quite big enough. Like we bought it for Quentin. And so I almost feel like I need a little bit bigger one because it's kind of smaller, less weight. Mm-hmm. So like some of the different things that he wants me to do, it's like just a smaller target. So maybe expand those in the near or in the future, but just practicing, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I'm here for it. I'm glad you're getting into something new, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
Good. What a great way to release all of your frustration.
I mean, that is hands down one. I was talking to one of my athletes and I was like, I'm not going to lie. Some days when I'm frustrated, hitting that bag just feels really, really good. So
yeah, I love that. I keep saying, like, every time I get on the Peloton, I'm like, is this my last ride? Is this my last ride? I don't know. And then it's just getting more and more cumbersome, but I really don't want to give it up. Like, it's just such good exercise that I don't get in other ways.
Sure.
And I'm like not ready to give it up yet, but it's also getting like almost comical. I feel like the Wicked Witch of the West as I'm riding the bike because my legs are like not, and like my belly is very much in the way. But I maybe I need to start exploring some new forms of exercise because the bike might be on the way out.
So would you say you're struggling to whether to do more or less of your favorite activity?
Great transition.
Look at that.
Look at you. Yes, well, not necessarily more or less, just what's going to work is what is but
anatomically still going to be able to be accomplished.
Yes. But today's topic I'm excited to dive into because, wow, that was a huge yawn. Because as you can see, I'm very excited.
She's just ecstatic. We're trying to keep her awake right now. That's our goal. Come on, people.
Overflowing. My doctor at my last appointment was like, a lot of women hit a wall right around 32 weeks. So she's like, just keep that in mind. Like, no.
Like, nope, not me. And then the reality sets in. You're like, damn it, they were correct.
But anyways, I am excited to dive into this episode because I think it'll be a bit of just kind of like a gut check episode where you get to have a honest conversation with yourself of where you're at, and when it is appropriate for you to push versus when it is appropriate for you to pace, and kind of recognizing your patterns and tendencies and making adjustments that will ultimately serve you and get you to a place where, you can actually see some progress. So we're going to go over some patterns that we typically see, and just kind of some indications or indicators that can help point you in the direction of if you're somebody that needs to pace versus push, and kind of walk through that process so that you can have a better frame of reference for when you are building out, what your week looks like, what your workouts look like, so that you can hold yourself accountable, all those good things.
Yeah, I think one question that we get a lot is, on either side, like, am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? And the funny part is, usually in both those cases, your tendencies, like just in life, will kind of push you toward one side or the other. If you're someone who likes to stay busy, doesn't like to sit down, you're going to push more on the I need to do more side. And we've dealt with people who need to come to that realization or that balance in their life. And then there are people on the other side where they get so busy, they do stuff that the goals they have for health usually get pushed aside for other things in life, which sometimes is appropriate. But also when they come to talk to us and say, like, I really have these things, you have to have that gentle but firm conversation of, like, this is our patterns and we need to find a way to modify those patterns so you can do what you came to me and asked me to do. And even on the other side, more, I could tell you this conversation, the less is more conversation I have on a daily basis with my athletes every day of the week, because, and I'm not comparing everyone to a collegiate distance runner, God forbid, because that's just a whole different can of worms. None of you want to get.
What would the world be like if?
I'm going to keep that comment to myself. But the understanding of more is not always better, and more doesn't actually get us to our goal any faster. Like, the funniest part, I had this analogy, and yours was perfect. Whenever I talk about the more, I talk about, like, okay, guys, if we wanted to get tan per se, is it better to do 10 minutes in a bathing suit, 15, 20, like, build a steady exposure to sun, which I'm not suggesting anyone does. I mean, I understand it's just a reference. Like, don't go down the skin cancer route. We're just talking hypothetically. Yeah. Or is it better to just, like, I'm going to put on a swimsuit and go sit outside for 90 minutes day one after the summer? Like, more is not going to get us to where we want to go. In fact, we might get burnt. We might have to go to the doctor. Like, this is not going to work well. So balancing both of those situations together.
Yeah. I often use, like, the bread analogy, right? Like, cranking the oven up to 500 degrees, doesn't, like, it doesn't bake your bread any faster. You just get a burnt loaf that's raw on the inside,
Yeah, for sure.
And so when we can utilize that analogy, and look at it across your tendencies, right? We typically put people into two categories. Are you somebody that needs to be paced, right? Which is what Tyler's talking about in terms of structuring out, allowing yourself grace, allowing yourself time, allowing yourself, allowing yourself to build, essentially. Sure. So think of it like, pacing a run, right? Instead of, coming out of the blocks of a marathon as an all-out sprint, right? How do we pace that run over time? Versus, are you somebody that needs to be pushed? Somebody that is, you are constantly coming up with excuses. You are somebody who is, has a really hard time getting yourself up off of the couch and doing the thing. What kind of conversation do we need to have? Does it need to be a pacing conversation? Does it need to be a pushing conversation? But I will say that often, as well as, a pushing conversation, there has to be a piece of pacing in there as well, especially for individuals who have the tendency to finally get that wave of motivation, and then go out in an all-out sprint, and then that causes the ultimate drop off. So that's like the first pattern that I kind of want to dissect, just because it's probably the most common pattern that I see with our clients. Not to say it's the most common pattern that's out there, but probably the most common pattern with our clients is struggling to do the thing and execute on the thing, right? Whatever that might be. Let's use exercise as an example. And finally, like being like, okay, today's the day, we're going to do it. And then they go all in and do a 45-minute strength workout, trying to mirror maybe a strength workout that they did 2 or 3 years ago when they were exercising consistently. And then we are dead tired. We don't necessarily feel energized or better after our workout. And then the following day and days, we're so sore that like we can't walk down the stairs or get up off the toilet. And then instead of being able to just participate in exercise again, we, are now sore for a whole week, unable to exercise. And then that like cycle starts all over again, over and over and over. And we don't see any consistency. And that mountain of building consistency or choosing exercise doesn't become any easier because we're always fighting that uphill battle. So it's a kind of a combination of push, right? Like, how do we not allow our excuses or things that are within our control to get in the way of us doing the thing that ultimately will serve us best? But then on the other side of that, once we get to that point, pacing our actions to allow for consistency to build over time.
Yeah. And I think on the pace side, and in listening to your explanation, there are a couple of things that we've noticed that also come out when we push too hard at the beginning. The first is being, like you mentioned it a lot, like a comparison of our past self that is reminding us of what we could do, like the athletic feats or the athleticism or just the general functionality we used to have that we no longer possess, but that we feel we should. Right. And sometimes that gets us in trouble because it doesn't allow for the reality of the situation, which is where we are, and an intake of like grace and understanding that for whatever reasons, and a lot of times they're valid, life is just kind of taken you on a different path, and you want to get back some of those things that you feel you can't do anymore. But the comparison model is keeping you trapped where you're at, because you're going to be like, well, I used to be able to do this, so I'm going to do this. And so you jump into that workout. And like you said, it's almost like running up a mountain, and you get, like 30 steps up and you're just exhausted, and you go down and you're like, I can't do this. And then you just walk down and feel like you're in a cycle that'll never be broken, versus, like you said, the ability to pace and say, okay, we're going up this entire mountain today. Like, let's just take this little step. And a lot of that is being realistic with yourself. And that's sometimes a hard thing for all of us to do, is to be 100% realistic of where we are, what is going on in our lives, and like just the sheer truth of the matter of, I put on X amount of weight, this hurts, that hurts, and I don't like it. Okay, well, like, let's start to piece that together. So there's that aspect to it. And it's also what usually happens is it's an over application of motivation, because you're tired of where you're at. You've got motivated, and then you just push too hard out the gate, instead of saying like, okay, let's plan this out. Let's find out, like, not only for the next week, but like, if I extrapolate this to 3 months, 6 months, is this realistic? Like, where I'm at right now in life with my schedule, with everything? Because a lot of times it's like, well, I want to work out 5 days a week. Yeah. I mean, most people would love that. But if you have 3 kids, 8 soccer practices, 2 basketball practices, like, maybe we just start off with 1 or 2.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like getting real with your patterns, like we talk all the time about building self-trust, um, allowing yourself to build confidence. I think that's also a really big component for individuals that feel like they need to be consistently pushed. Like if you're consistently having this almost like mental battle with yourself to follow through on an action instead of just following through on that action with ease, right? Like the individual that is the entire drive home from work. Am I going to work out? Am I not going to work out? Do I need rest? Do I not need rest? Am I, like instead of just going and figuring out how we feel and adjusting from there, it's this constant battle of like, am I going to follow through or can I find an excuse, like another activity, a load of laundry, a thing like a load of dishes, vacuuming, like any other task that can take the place of my workout, right? So that I still feel productive. I still have a reason why I'm not working out or not exercising. And I can convince myself, that's why, and just say, oh, I was too busy. Oh, I was too busy, too busy, too busy. And so if that is a consistent pattern, right, that you're finding where you're really struggling to get up off the couch, do the thing, if you're consistently finding other things are taking priority over the action that you ultimately want to take, if you're, consistently coming up against a wall where you're having to have like almost this mental negotiation with yourself of if you're going to follow through on that thing, I would almost dial it back, right? We very much come from the lens of behavior change and getting down to the root of what's causing it. And a lot of times that boils down to self-trust and the pattern that you have built in like your abilities to follow through on something. I often use that Tiger par as an example in this case of, Tiger Woods when he was learning how to golf. Instead of going out and trying to shoot par for the course, his dad would set a par that was in line with his particular skill level so that each time he went out, instead of consistently falling short of this standard, he had a goal that was in alignment with his skill level that he could reasonably meet week over week. And that allowed him to build confidence because instead of being knocked down every week and falling short, right, he was rising to a reasonable expectation. And in doing that time over time, right, you start to build confidence in your abilities, and that bar can be risen. That bar can rise.
Risenness.
That bar can rise over time, and that's where we see long-term growth instead of finding that motivation, going out, trying to shoot par for the course, falling short, and then continually perpetuating that narrative that, oh, I always do this. Oh, I'm so lazy. Oh, I always fall short. Oh, this and that. And just like almost this like self-fulfilling prophecy. And so if you're somebody that's constantly having those negotiations, constantly needing that pushing, I would have that conversation with yourself first of what does par look like for me in a reasonable sense of where I'm at now. Allow yourself to meet yourself where you are now. And even if that's not where you ultimately want to be, then so be it. And know that that's still an opportunity for the future. But getting the wheels turning and allowing yourself to have some success, right? Even if it's paced success, right, will only serve you in the future.
Yeah. And I think one thing that you said that I want to address we need to push ourselves a little bit, because I think it can be a trigger word for some people, is like we found an excuse to not do something. And that is not validating some of the things that we have to do, because I think sometimes when you say anyone says the word excuse, people automatically get a little defensive. Like, no, I have to do this. Like, I have to take my kid here. I have to do this. Like, this is something I have to do. And it's not validating the things you have to do or your life or the circumstances around your life. But it is
100%.
also coming to the realization that if this is becoming a pattern for you and you want to interject it or change it, we are going to have to find a way to put your duties, these things that come, I don't want to say on a second hand, but you're going to have to find a way to interject this into your day, because as much as Heidi and myself would love to be at your house every day helping you do this, at the end of the day, the only person that can make sustainable changes, change your routine, your pattern is you. Like we can't do that for you. We can talk through it with you. We can give you ideas like modifying your routine, things like habit stacking, like all those different things that can try to build it into what you do every day. But at the end of the day, it's one of those analogies like we've talked about on here, you mentioned a lot, is like eating the frog. Like there are times where it's going to be a tough decision for you, and that is going to have to come down to your dedication or your want to change. Because if you keep letting those things interject, those excuses, valid as they might be, to interject the life that you want to live, it's going to continue that pattern, and nothing is going to, if nothing changes, nothing changes. 100%. And that's a hard thing for everyone. But at the same time, understanding that we're coming from a place of love, we're not trying to discredit you, but just understand that like we got to change something. And that's why you're kind of here in front of us, or you're one of our clients. And it requires some reflection, some self-understanding, which is never an easy thing for anyone either, to be like, yeah, I do have a tendency to let these things get in my way. And like understanding where maybe the room doesn't need to be vacuumed today. Maybe the most important thing today is me taking care of myself. And maybe we can push that till tomorrow. Or like me going for a walk with my husband, spouse, or my kids is going to interfere with XYZ, but it's more important in my life than, what I had planned, than watching my show. Like that might just fall to the wayside, or record it, watch it later. Like there's things we can do, but I mean, it's just one of those hard pills to swallow, because it's just the truth of the matter. And sometimes it's a hard truth to look at.
I never want I just what you said, that saying that we're finding excuses or something can almost feel like triggering to people. Like we're, but like, let's just, call a spade a spade. Like I think as humans, we're really good at finding excuses for things that we don't want to do, or things that are new, or things that are different, or things that are uncomfortable, or any of those things. Right. And so we're not talking about toxic discipline where, if you're a dog tired, you got 4 hours of sleep, you're sick, and, you have a sick kid, or, any of those things that rest isn't important, right? And you have to hold yourself to this standard, all the time, or that you're not allowed to modify, or that if something that is extraneous that comes up, like a kid gets sick and, a wrench gets thrown in your day or whatever, that all of a sudden you then have to meet yourself with judgment and start beating yourself up, or, any of those things. That's not what we're saying. But when we say, we're really good at finding excuses, and somebody says, well, yeah, but, right? Like I often talk about the phrase, yeah, but, it's great to identify what we perceive as barriers to doing the thing that we ultimately want to do. But if you're sitting in front of me and all you can come up with are reasons as to why you are stuck, then you will continue to remain stuck, right? Like yes, I have to do this. Yes, I have to do that. Yes, I have to do this. Great. If we can't find a solution, then this is where we're going to be. And if you're uncomfortable, unhappy, unsatisfied with the current reality, then something needs to give, shift, or change. And that can be the smallest thing. I think that's also the other kind of misconception, is like these huge changes have to be made in order to make these big shifts. But when we are feeling really overwhelmed and we do have a lot on our plate, I think it's important to prove to ourselves and show ourselves and like, start to teach our brain that these small incremental improvements that we can find little pockets for in our day make, huge changes over time. And I think that also leads into the conversation about pacing as well. So there's pacing for the individual that needs to be pushed, right? And I think we've dissected that. But then there's also just pacing for the individual that needs to be paced. And Tyler touched on this with his, student athletes, somebody that has a tendency to, go balls to the walls, maybe overtrain, maybe feel like if they're not going 110% 110% all the time, 24/7, then they're falling short of their expectations. And I think for these individuals, having a very serious conversation about rest. I remember a client who, never allowed herself to skip a day, like never allowed herself to skip a workout, never, she was exercising 7 days a week. And I was like, what if we made that 5 just to start? And I was like, I can't wait for you to see how you feel. Cause she was, tired and burnt out and not excited about exercise or lifting weights, or, it was still a struggle for her to get into the gym and she wasn't enjoying it. I was like, what would happen if we just backed that down to 5 and we saw maybe an increase in our effectiveness? Maybe we actually allowed our muscles to recover between exercise bouts, so you're not working against yourself. And what did we see? Right? We saw improved strength gains. She had more energy. She was starting to actually enjoy her workouts again because she wasn't just like battling against herself when her body needed recovery. Right? And so that's a separate conversation that we need to have when, we talk about follow through and, where we could kind of get into that toxic discipline side of things where we feel like we're not allowed to miss a workout, or if I miss a workout, I'm going to gain weight, or if, like those types of narratives also aren't helpful for long-term health either. And that's where that pacing concept needs to come into play.
Well, the thing that people get stuck in, like, especially the ones I work with, is you get caught in like the recovery trap where you're not allowing any adaptations for your body in whatever facet you're trying to do. Like you just keep putting a stress on it. So it's like basically building a wall, and then the next day you knock a couple bricks down, and then because you're putting a stimulus to your body, and like those bricks keep getting put on the floor and back on the wall and like you're not actually building a wall. Right. Like you're just knocking bricks and putting them back and forth. Like your body, there is a amount of time, unless you're chemically enhanced, that it takes your body to adapt to what you're giving it. Like that's just physiology. Like, I mean, and what you're describing, I have a lot of empathy for because I deal with it a lot every day. But it's also an understanding that most of that time when you are this person that does it 7 days a week, it's like a mental state more than a physical attribute that you're dealing with. Like these people don't miss workouts or because they don't want to get behind, because they have a fear of gaining weight. If they have like some mental blocks that are telling them I can't do this, versus because there's a lot of times where I've had these conversations where you are injured, you're plateaued, you are having, XYZ. And I could tell you like right away, like that's because we're not giving our body the rest that it needs to do what you're asking it to do. But they just like mentally, like it's that block there. So sometimes, and even in these situations, there's a lot of different things. Like I will tell people, okay, we're only going to do 5 days a week. If you still like need to go to the gym, like that is just like, okay, we're just going to stretch and we're like do a couple laps and stretch and feel good. Like if you're sanctity or, whatever is the gym, I'm not going to pull you from that initially. Like eventually I think, and this will probably fly in the face of a lot of like health nuts, like not being able to ever stop is not a healthy thing. Like in
Not
a
having
health,
any other outlet.
yeah, any other outlet, like we probably should do some work on, and I'm not joking, like I've had people do like painting, drawing, like find something that isn't physically demanding, but that's down the road. But I'll just tell people, like, I'll give you a stretch routine and I want you to do it. And I want you to breathe through it. I want you to relax. But like, it's usually more of like a mental situation where we have some control issues and this is giving us our form of control. And we have to like couple a couple different patterns and behaviors together to try to help that.
Yeah, 100%. And then in that same thread, the last kind of category that I want to touch on for pacing is for individuals who are dealing with injury. I think there's a tendency for, performers, people who, have that kind of sense of structure or control or whatever, and then we're met with some sort of injury and we want to just push through. And typically pushing through and just saying, F it, I'm just going to do it anyways, isn't helpful when it comes to injury recovery, but also allowing your body the inputs that it needs. And so, I often will ask, like, what are we doing here? Right? Like what is the purpose for you? Right. And if the purpose is truly just to fuel our ego and do these things that, these movements or whatever, that fuel that for us, then we're not then that's a separate conversation, right? We need to find value outside of that, for our movement routine. But when we get down to it, right at the end of the day, movement is a tool to, yes, enjoy, to have fun, to do the things that we like, but it's also a tool to improve our health. And if we are consistently choosing movement that is setting us back instead of forward, then we're not ultimately upholding, our desire for improved health, right? We're actively working against that. And so, in that same kind of pacing conversation, we've talked about rest. We've talked about, dialing back intensity or this or that to allow the body to adapt. Same thing goes for injury recovery and allowing for modifications, changing your exercise routine, and maybe changing the focus of the exercise to support the injury instead of actively working against it.
Yeah. And I feel like the one caveat that comes in this for me is the person who, when they're doing their workouts, doesn't want to rest, doesn't want to, like, there has to be an intensity variable that they have to hit in order to feel better in this. And sometimes, especially when you get injured because you're over applying intensity all the time. Like you said, I sometimes peeling it back, finding a different activity altogether, inserting a new activity. If it's like I circuit train 6 days a week, it's like, okay, we're going to circuit train 3 days and then we're going to do some like yin yoga, like just some easy stuff. And at first it's going to be very difficult because you're going to want to go to your place of comfort / discomfort, which is the intensity model, but pulling that back and trying to like be okay with those type of things is going to give you like actually more of what you're seeking and more of what your goals are. It just takes some modification, like you said, of activity to get there.
Yeah. It's not a don't do this or stop exercising or you have to give up this big thing, but it's like, how can we just approach it in a smart way and allow yourself to get back to that thing that, even if it is fueling your ego, day over day. I had to have that humbling conversation with myself of, what strength training was going to look like for me during this pregnancy. And that was not a fun conversation. But at the end of the day, like having to have that conversation was a necessity for my health, baby's health, all of those things. And so I think that can, not that pregnancy is an injury or should be treated as such, but I think that same kind of concept can be extrapolated, and having those conversations with yourself about like, what does this actually look like for me so that I can get back to doing what I want to do? Like, what's going to support me during this season, and knowing that like it can be a temporary season.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's only a period of time, but sometimes, because I can deal with this too, like it's a conversation that whether you're on, I feel like if you're one of those few blessed people that can do the middle, like all the more power to you. But most of us end on one side or the other. And I could just tell you from someone who's been a fitness person for more years, like decades upon decades, I still have to have this conversation with myself because I lean on one side more than the other. And I have to check myself a lot because I will go back to that. And then it's like one of those constant reminders in life where I'm like, okay, this is your tendency. You're starting to get X, Y, and Z from it. Like, what is the reality and how can we pull ourselves back to the middle?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. You want to go into the sauna and wrap this up?
Sure.
Welcome, everyone. It's time to head to sauna. Let's dive in.
Let's go. All right. What do you want people to take away from today's episode?
I wanted people to just understand that there are going to be times on both ends where like we're going to identify with a person who needs pushed or need paced, one side or the other, pushed or pulled. And that's okay. But the ability to recognize your own patterns, possibly sitting down and just having a moment of truth with yourself or with someone that, is like your spouse, your significant other, your partner that knows you really well. And when you want to make changes, just asking that honest conversation is kind of where am I at? And where do you see that I need to change or develop in order to meet these goals will help you like ultimately find a more sustainable plan. So we don't have this peaks and valleys and we have more of like a general incline to our goals. And hopefully this helped you identify like a couple things like that. Maybe sounds like me a little bit, or maybe that is, where I have a tendency to do stuff and find some ways to kind of break it.
Yeah, I echo that. And I'll just add like, utilize this episode as an opportunity for self-reflection, right? Like something that we don't often carve out time for during our day-to-day as we're just, trying to get through life's responsibilities. But if you're struggling and you've noticed a pattern, right, in your behavior, I think just again, having that conversation with yourself of, this is where I'm at and these are my tendencies and here's how I can move forward from them. I think that's the ultimate takeaway that I want you to have is an opportunity for self-reflection.
Awesome. 100%.
You have trivia for me.
I do have trivia. It's going to be some sports trivia today. I don't know how you would say this, in reflection, in something honor of our men's and women's basketball team, both seasons coming to an end yesterday, which was sad. What?
I need to know. So yes, that's very sad. And I was very disappointed, but I need to know, who do you have winning? Like, did you make a full bracket and who do you have winning?
I do. And it's not very exciting. I have UConn winning the tournament.
Everybody has UConn winning the tournament.
I know.
Wah, wah.
Although, and that's a very gutsy pick because not that I don't know how many of you listen. They're going to run into 4 conference champions or 3 conference champions. Like, so if they do win, it might be the most earned national championship in history. So
that's fair. That's
who do you have then?
I took the Vols.
Oh, really? I think I think Lindsay has them in the championship, and I don't know if I think I have them going to the either Elite Eight or Final Four and then getting knocked out. So
Really?
yeah.
I'm trying to see where my entry is. I'm trying to see who I have them matched up against in the.
I think I have them against Houston. So.
Okay, here's my thing. Why can't I look at it?
Some of them you can't until it's started because they don't want, yeah. But I don't know. I just do we just do a family, in case you're listening, compliance. We just do a family.
For funsies.
For funsies. The only thing that's on is we'll put a specific, we're going out to dinner this night. The winner gets to pick where we go. That's about it. I have never, don't win anything. I have no insider information. I don't know why in the what they think I do, but my job is very specific about not gambling, and so I do not.
Okay, here we go. I have Final Four. I have UConn, North Carolina. That was a tough pick, honestly.
That was, especially since North Carolina did not look fantastic in the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a tough pick. And then Tennessee, Kentucky. And then I took Tennessee. So they are in the championship against UConn in my bracket. And then I took Tennessee because I want that so bad. Incredible. For UConn to make it to the championship after facing, like you said, 4 other champions and just getting rocked by the Vols. So I definitely went with my heart in this bracket. Gonzaga made it way farther than they should have in my bracket. But that's okay. And then I had the play-in game for BSU Colorado. I thought BSU was going to win, but in the bracket that I made, I didn't have to declare the winner. It was just the winner of that play-in game against Florida. And so my bracket's still alive, even though Colorado won. But if I would have known that Colorado was going to win, I would not have picked them over Florida, I don't think.
Sure.
Because that was a heart pick, too. I wanted Boise State to win a game.
Yeah, me too.
Anyways, all right, sports trivia. Sorry.
Sports trivia. We got off on sports. Who is considered the godfather of fitness?
Richard Simmons.
Close, but not really.
I don't know who.
Jack LaLanne.
Oh.
And for some of you who don't know, he is a very he's considered he was a fitness guru, I would say, but also a very well-balanced fitness guru. He was in shape. He was one of the most admired, but he was not the meathead fitness person you would think. He was a very well-rounded, just loved health and fitness. So there's that one. What is a world record for push-ups in 1 hour?
Ooh, in 1 hour. So if you were to do 10 push-ups per minute, which is a lot.
Yeah.
That would be 600 in an hour. I don't think somebody could keep that pace up. 10 per minute for a full hour. I'm going to go 534.
2,682.
Really doubted somebody's ability to keep that pace. Wow. Very modest approach, which I really shouldn't do when going for a world record.
Yeah.
Takes that out.
This is going to be comical because I don't know how to say this. Most weight ever deadlifted, world record.
Ooh. 6 634 pounds.
501 kilograms.
Wait, how many pounds is that?
That's what I was just going to look. Kilograms, I'm just going to tell you people, and pardon the pun, that is a shit ton of weight. 501 times 2.2 is 1,102 pounds.
That is insane.
That is disgusting. By Harfer Bjorson. I probably butchered that, so I apologize, sir. But that is yeah. That's interesting. Which muscle in the body is the strongest? I would think like just the strongest, like in general contractivity.
General contractivity that's got to be like glute max.
Yep. Glute max, winner.
Yeah. Ding 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 ding.
This is weird. Oh my gosh. What is the most expensive gym membership like ever? Like you paid this much for a gym membership per year.
Per year. There's one in LA that's really cool. $3,000.
$2,400 a year, and it is the E at Club Equinox.
Is it in LA?
I don't know. It doesn't say, but you better be working out for me if I spend $24,000 a year on a club membership.
Wait, 24,000? I think you said 2,400.
Oh no, sorry, 24,000 a year.
Oh my God. What do you get for $24,000?
Like literally, I'm thinking like spa, massage, like
it's got to be the work.
Free juice bar, food. I don't know. Like that's a lot.
So there's this gym in LA, and I can't remember what it's called, but like I would love to open something like this in Denver because I think it would crush. But it was like a multi-story facility. And like, yes, the gym memberships were expensive, but it was also a co-working space. So like different levels of this facility had like different purposes. So there was like the ground floor that was just like free weights and everything. And then they had their cardio studio, and then they had their group exercise rooms, and they had like Pilates and yoga and, other group fitness and all of those different things. And it was very like, like a 24-hour fitness has a look, and then like a boutique gym has like a look. Yeah. It had a very like boutique gym vibe to it. And it was like very pretty, and all of the like group fitness classes were included with your membership. There was a cycle studio. And then like the next level up was like a meditation room. And then there was the co-working space. And then at the very top, there was like a health food type restaurant. And I was like, that would be so sick to like go there, work, have all of these facilities like at your disposal every day. And like, the ability to work and like pop into a Pilates class and then pop back into work, like would just be incredible.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
And I looked to see how much it was, and it was like not any more expensive than just like renting an office space. And I was like, that's incredible.
That's amazing.
I know. Anyways, I wish that existed here because I would buy it.
Okay, 2 more. Okay. What is the fastest time for climbing the highest peaks in all 7 continents? It's in days. We'll give you that. Days.
Days?
Yeah. So you'd like climb up to a peak in Africa, climb down, fly to the next continent, do the same thing, come down, fly to the next continent.
10 days.
138 days. It might take more than 10 days to get up and down some of those mountains. This will be fun.
I've just been really undershooting everything, so I really just went for it on that one.
What was the last one? What was the first fitness machine called? Doesn't have a year, but it just has the name.
the Health-O-Matic 200.
Not too far. The Gymnasticon. There you go. I want to see what that's like. I'm going to probably Google that when we're done. What does the Gymnasticon look like?
I'm into that. All right. Well, hopefully you guys had fun listening to today's episode, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. See you soon.